if you'd like to introduce yourself and let us know some about you, and we'll get into our self-talk.
Yeah, absolutely. Greetings, everyone. My name is Andarius Taylor. I am an academic advisor at the University of Michigan. Um, I am, a proud agent in higher education, and so been in the field for, I'd say over 5 years, but working, hands-on work and experience, I would say over a decade, working with undergraduate students, traditional, non-traditional. And so, yeah, I love being in a capacity where I can genuinely serve. I can be someone who is truly resourceful, and yeah, use my own experiences to help and enlighten and motivate other people. So, yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Thank you. It's so yeah, you work at University of Michigan. Are you kind of noticing right now that students are kind of I don't know how it is at U of M, but here we've noticed kind of a lot of students are deciding to drop out or just wait altogether on the semester, um, just because it's just been so challenging with 2020 and COVID-19, and some people just it doesn't work to learn online. Um, for students that are kind of like that, they decided to drop out kind of midway and maybe are feeling that this is kind of the end of their academic journey. Do you have any kind of motivational tips for them?
Yeah, definitely. So I like to remind folks that every single student is different. Every single case is different. There's no one size fits all, type of approach, And so, and especially in this season of Corona, is definitely one that's been challenging. So what I've been telling folks, um, commonly is to give themselves that grace and that room to to kind of go with whatever is needed, for them and their self care, their mental health, and whatever the case might be. So a lot of times, I've seen. I've seen situations where, they feel like, I have to stop or I have to quit or this is me giving up. And I like to encourage a different perspective, which is, adjusting, making a modification. You know what? This is what's cause for at this point in time. It doesn't have to mean you've stopped your life, you've stopped your education, indefinitely, but you've made a decision, a wise decision for yourself, because of the circumstances that are beyond your control, right? So a different perspective, has really been a huge point in my conversations, a common point in many of my conversations with students. It doesn't have to be the end, So I think that that's really key. One of the key things that's important. You don't have to feel like you're giving up, and you're not giving. I don't think any student is giving up or can't do it because of, like I said, the unknown or unforeseen circumstances that they've been faced with. If you need to take care of yourself and whatever the situations that you have, that is a priority. It's okay. Utilize the resources that the university has to take help you in the matter, and then communicate accordingly with your instructors. But then you come first. Your health comes first.
Yeah,
That's been my approach.
yeah, definitely.
One of my approaches.
Yeah, I definitely think self-care has been everybody's like on campus has been trying to push that message as well.
Mhm.
And I think it's important to know that maybe sometimes stepping back or out of it isn't giving up, like you said, it's taking care of yourself. Um I remember when you were the keynote speaker for the regional induction ceremony, you mentioned positive self-talk. And can you kind of tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, definitely. I'm laughing at myself because I tend to, especially now, so even though I'm not in a formal program, but I'm serving I'm in a service capacity. I think it's important to really enjoy the process as much as possible, right? So I think about when I was an undergrad, and I definitely have felt I felt tests before. I've definitely procrastinated. You name it. You know, I've I've been diverse in my undergraduate career. Um, but I would say I've found that when I'm talking to students, you know, when I see like some of the trends that they have that they've shared with me, you know, and it's similar, I ask them a simple question. I say, "How is that working out for you?" And they say, like, you know, I've been studying, I've been grinding, I've done this and this and that and that. And I ask them, like, "How is that working for you? Like, if your mental, you know, is in a strained position, you know, and oftentimes, more often than not, of course, they say it's not. So I literally, I make sure that I'm telling myself, oh, this isn't the first time, you know, I've been in this arena, in this situation. It's not, you know, the test I've had before, I know what I've done to prepare, right? We have a syllabus in each class, so
Yeah.
it's oftentimes, you know, taking accountability is oftentimes really making sure that distractions are eliminated as much as possible. Those things that we do have control over, those things really, the basics is basically what I'm getting at, is the key. I would say in really maximizing productivity, you know, in preparation, and that helps positive self-talk. You know, when you know you haven't read a single page of a 49 page requirement, yeah, that's gonna be tough. You know, that's gonna be tough. So even if that's the case, I say, you know what, I'm gonna give it my best shot. I know I haven't prepared myself for it, but you know what, I'm not gonna stress about it. I know, you know, and so saying things like that out loud, you know, is not just enough to think it, you know, really speak to yourself, you know, speak to these circumstances and these situations, especially if you're by yourself. There's no embarrassment. You know, it's your arena. You know, it's your arena. So I feel like I've done a lot of that, and then I do it now, in whatever ways, you know, and because that's what helps me. And I feel like with uh, all of the things to think about, and that I do think about on a given basis, we all have a lot of responsibilities. We have to do something to neutralize that. We do. And so that positive self-talk, you know, and I say make yourself laugh, enjoy it, you know, whatever that avenue, that the initial avenue looks like for you, I dare you to take it. I dare you to take it, and then continue in that path. And you will find yourself being productive in your thinking and your performance. In my strong opinion and experience.
Yeah, definitely. I I was thinking of one more question I had for you about positive self-talk. So like I've known a lot of people that they talk about kind of like leaving affirming notes for themselves, you know, positive affirmations places. Do you feel like positive self-talk is even more important than leaving like little reminders for yourself to like, you know, think positive or, you know, uh um yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that they work hand in hand. I definitely say that they work hand in hand. So, you know, leaving notes, you know, all around the room or wherever your environment is, that's kind of like the an initial, like a spark. But then you speaking those words out loud is an actual flame. You know, it's an actual fire now being you know, consuming the negative situation. You know, I think that is, again, yeah, it is a hand in hand type of situation. But yeah, if you're not doing it, I always think I like to give a real perspective, you know, from A to Z. What is, or how is the processes working for you, that you know that you are currently in? You know, if I'm having a conversation with the student, you know, and if they're not doing these things, I like to, you know, softly challenge them in that way. So, all right, if you are leaving notes, and if you're just, you know, looking at a book, you know, for hours at a time, you know, how is that working out for you? You know, if you're not speaking the thing, you know, speaking the material out loud, if you're not, you know, educating yourself or activating the information, if you will, you know, putting it in our registrar or retaining it formally, how is that working out for you? Again, oftentimes it's really not. It's really
Yeah.
not. So I like to give example, like real examples, simple two examples of a teacher, you know, or your professor. They're they're actually learning the material over, or they're registering the information as they teach it out to you all. You know, it's one thing if they just say, hey, here, take this, and then, you know, you're responsible for learning it. I know that that might be the case sometimes, but not in lecture. Not in lecture. You're going to be in a classroom. They're speaking. They're actually going over it, and that information is then processed. You know, is being processed into our thinking, and then, you know, the confidence is just reinforced. The confidence is reinforced. So that's why it's important to do those things in our own time.
Yeah. Did any of you have any questions for Andarius yet?
Yeah, I had one. So while being at home and having to be online, there's like obviously way more distractions and ways to like get off topic and, find other things to do besides your homework. So do you have any tips to like how to stay on track and not let those other things, like distract you?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, take I don't want to say small or quantify, you know, use a quantifying descriptor, but taking the necessary steps, like realistic steps, I would say, and eliminating those distractions. So one, it's easy to just say turn off your phone. You know, there's like for how long, right? You know, you don't want to just say I'm gonna turn off my phone and then, you know, put it in the closet, lock it in a door. That's not realistic, right? Now I say give yourself a realistic limitation, so that that distraction can be, you know, properly accounted for. You know what? For this 30 minutes, I'm gonna, you know, you know, unplug from my phone, or I'm going to do, you know, 10 push-ups. I'm going to do something, right? So make a realistic set of expectations so that you can account, and then do it, you know. And I feel like that's a real practical way of um, embracing the environment that we're in, right? Because of course everybody has a different situation, and it's really difficult, right? Sometimes, but yeah, you have to take those, and I guess that's why I said small steps. I wanted to say small steps at first because, you know, you got to start somewhere. You got to start somewhere, and I think that that's going to make a difference, you know, as you continue to exercise that, you know. And I'll say too, while I'm on, you know, on the point of exercising, that would be my my next thing, you know, my next filler. I've learned something. I'm a healthy champion at the University of Michigan, and so basically someone who an agent at the university who is in my unit, in my respective unit, who helps promote, you know, physical health and wellness, you know, with, you know, ergonomics, and things that help us to stay productive, but also active and healthy in our physical bodies. And so one thing I would say is, like sitting for too long is definitely can be challenging. And I learned that, um, what is it? Even if you work out or you have a regular routine, you know, fitness routine, the effects and impacts of sitting for too long cannot be reversed. You know, so for those of us, I'm gonna say I'm including myself, who slouch, you know, it's like, oh man, like, you know, let me correct my posture, but also take breaks and get up, you know, and do some stretches, sit down, you know, only when you absolutely need to. But yeah, I think that those things are all very, very helpful, you know. But starting where it works for you versus, you know what, I'm gonna read this book for 4 hours, or nah, like, you know, break it up in increments. Whatever the task, you know, or the thing that you like to do, incorporate that into your study time.
Thank you for that. I totally agree with sitting too long. When the semester started, I would sit at the computer for 10 hours, and it was horrible because I'm taking 4 classes fully online. And so there was absolutely no way to get away from the computer. And then the cost of ergonomical, desks and equipment and stuff wasn't realistic. So definitely it took its toll. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, so I think too, what I wanted to ask was for like going back to environment, a lot of students that I've talked to, they've mentioned that, usually if like they went to campus, they could kind of go to the cafe and sit and study there, and then go to the library and study there. And so their environment was always changing. It didn't remain the same, like sitting in our bedroom and studying or going out to the living room. How at home, especially during wintertime when you can't get outside really to sit and study outdoors, what are good ways to kind of stay motivated and find different environmental ways to study?
Yeah, yeah. So that's a good question. And again, of course, it varies, with every single individual. And so one thing I would say is, um, uh, there might be room for investing in uh, things that that you used to do or used to be able to do on campus. So like you said, like going to a coffee shop or something. If that's not the case, if one doesn't have a coffee maker, and of course, if you drink coffee enough, investing in like a small Keurig, and then have your uh, tea moment or coffee moment, create that environment as best as you can at home. I say definitely that's where taking those appropriate breaks. Like if you can, go for a walk, or I mean, I know it's about to get cold outside, so maybe you don't want to go for a walk as long. But I would say that, yeah, incorporating, or creating that environment at home, as best as you can. So whether that's drawing taking some time to draw a picture, and make that, create that scene or setting. I think that, yeah, above that, probably more than anything, is kind of back to what I was saying, is taking those appropriate breaks, away from, it has to be a different process entirely. It really does. There's no way that one can expect, faculty, staff, anyone can expect students to endure this as they did before the pandemic. So I've been really coaching and mentoring and like advocating and advising students to really be okay with the mixed bag of feelings that they have, embracing like, yo, you know what, I really do feel, and hear what you're saying. And so, and you're not wrong, you're not wrong, and you're not failing as an individual, as a person, because things aren't materializing that way. So I think that acknowledging and embracing truly like the ups, the downs, the ins and the outs, from I would say people in my capacity, I think that that's important for students to hear, and not just saying that like, hey, it's going to be okay, but no, really, and then sharing my personal situations as well. So like I had an appointment today, a phone appointment, and it was pretty awful. Just my environment. My kids they're 2 and 4. So as professional as I may try to appear, hey, how's it going? Or I'm not holding the phone, but I'm trying to take care of business. And there's screaming, there's fighting, there's there's all kinds of uncontrollable situations, right? But yeah, the stress, of course, it doesn't help us at all. So I think that, and I don't want to lose my train of thought, because it definitely can, can go beyond. But I think that the more we are okay with the real situation that we're in, so whether you can't, if you can't go out, and like where I live too, like I'm very limited, with our space or with my workspace. But it's not going to work for my family if I'm grumpy or grouchy, right? So I tend to really be intentional. I have to be intentional about like how I think about my performance and how I'm being observed by those around me too. Like that's important for me as well. So I think that, you really being okay, and then taking appropriate breaks, to just relax. I never feel guilty. And I tell students this all the time, never feel guilty for needing and wanting to take a nap or breaking away to just watch net. I don't believe in false guilt. So when I guess when students maybe, really enjoy having conversations with me, I feel like they do. They've told me that, and like I feel very humbled. But really, think about the contrary. It's a lot. No, you shouldn't feel guilty. You shouldn't feel guilty for wanting and needing to take care of yourself in ways that are unique to you. So I know that was a very, wide response, but because it is a custom package. It's a
Yeah.
custom situation. So
Yeah, and that's I think too with you talking about kind of you know, feeling guilty for taking time for ourselves. As someone who's like suffers from like perfectionism, I can totally say that that is, a valid point of that feeling guilty for not, reaching what you feel is your set goal. For students kind of like myself who have the I won't say an issue, but have high expectations for themselves of, keeping their GPA up high, and experiencing that during the pandemic that, it's really been challenging to keep, up in the 90s or so, without, sacrificing self-care. What is kind of your take on those personality types that, they take it as feeling guilty or that they're not doing their best, even though they are giving their all.
yeah, yeah. So what I would say to that is, um, I think it's definitely okay to have high expectations, high standards, right? But neutralize the energy, like neutralize the energy, the mental energy, probably more than anything, in how you operate, if that makes sense. So, you know what, your to-do list may consist of, if I'm thinking about your to-do list, Sarah, specifically, it's probably 472 things on there that's due in the next 15 minutes. I don't know how, but you know, I think committing to not freaking out, or how do I want to say this? Committing to, being your whole self, despite, the many things that are listed on a sheet of paper, right? I think that's what I would say to that. It's okay, as to be to have a perfected idea or ideal, um, created in one's mind. However, neutralize the energy. It's like, oh man, if this doesn't happen, watch how you express yourself. Watch how the the body language and the body, feels when don't achieve something, or something doesn't happen when you plan, right? So I think that's probably the biggest thing, or that's definitely what I would say could make a difference, and just how you um, like I said, how you present yourself whole, holistically, in the matter, because yeah, you are a flawed human. We all are flawed, and I think that's probably one of the perfect things, as crazy that may sound, perfect things about how life, is structured. It's like, how do you make it look so easy, or how do you make it look so like, don't you have this and this and that to do? People always tell me, or all have always told me, it's just like, man, like you never stress about anything, like, and I feel like that's a gift of mine. My family, my mom actually sent me a text message today, in our group chat. There was a I don't know what city this was, but there was a guy, a barber. This was outside. I don't know when this was taken, but there was a barber outside, cutting someone's hair, mindful of COVID. He had his mask on, and literally around him, like, I don't know if this was like in front of the shop, but there was literally like a fights and like cars drive. It was a lot of things going on around, but he was tapering my guy up. He was just, he was just focused on what he was doing, and everything around him may have been just completely out of pocket. And I think that's a not just a gift, but that's a necessity. That's a necessity for self care and like, I can't let anything knock me off of my block. Or I won't, even if it's one thing at a particular point in time, I'm not gonna let this knock me off of my block. So you really and that's part of self-talk. That's part of like your mental game being intact, as best as it could be.
Like, as-
Yeah, I have one question, Andarius. Thank you. It's
Yes, sir.
okay. Does it matter like to have some friends around you um, who come and encourage you at a time when you need the most commitment? Like for example, it's a final and you have just 2 weeks and the whole 4 months of stuff is cramped into this 2 weeks period of time, and there's so much. And sometimes a depressive environment is also there. You have all these different balls rolling. You don't want to drop none of them.
Mm-hmm.
Some student may have a father role, some have a good husband role, some even have a work responsibility going too.
Mm-hmm.
You got a good work, you got final coming, you got things due, and then you need self-care on top of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
A kid might need a ride to school or
Yeah.
And when things become all depressive kind of thing, you could use some help, right? Like, hey, can you be a little encouraging to me, or I need some motivation right now, kind of thing. So sometimes you have to be an initiator for that, showing your vulnerability, like, look, I'm trying to pull together all these string together, but I'm having the hardest time right now. I could use your help. Could you please help me? Instead of showing the macho-ness, like I can do it, or I have all this rain, I can control it. Like I'm trying to get the rain, so it's just
Right.
coming off of me. Please help, like kind of thing. Just be humble and show your weakness. But I see the emotional health part where you don't want to show your total weakness, but at the same time, you don't want to show that you're too tough, you can handle it.
Mm-hmm.
But more of a, I am vulnerable, I need help.
Yeah.
I can't do it. That humbleness also helps. But my challenge is to be able to bring that balance,
Yeah.
so delicate. And so trying to bring the balance, what could be some important things that I could do. I would like to learn that. Really
Yeah.
appreciate.
Yeah, definitely. No, I appreciate you sharing that too,
Yes.
because like I was sharing, as a, I'm married myself, I'm a, father, and but I'm not in school though, right? So I don't have the academic responsibility like I did before this. And so, but I definitely, position myself, I yield myself accordingly when I'm, in a position to, hopefully encourage and be in someone's corner. Like I feel like it's a duty of mine. Like I take it personal, like, having this conversation with you all, like this isn't, like I said last time, like I'm on the clock punch. No, like this is, this is a real, situation. Like it was real people trying to make things happen, like in their lives. And so like my mindset is geared in that way. Well, I would say, is definitely for those, people in your life in your corner, like I got a best friend, he's in Saginaw, where I'm from. Whenever I talk to him or one of my other best friends, even if I'm not saying like what's going on, if I need something, I just call them to break away from, just whatever I got going on, just because I know I'm going to laugh a lot or I'm going to make him laugh, which makes me laugh. And that's just the situation, so I think that whether it's you asking and communicating, hey, listen, I'm feeling like, yo, I just need a little bit of encouragement, or hey, what would you do with this situation if that trusted person is available, right? And however you engage that situation, I think that's more than appropriate. But I think the important thing, is, like I said before, is neutralizing, the energy that we put towards all of these moving pieces at the same time, because they're not going to stop. Like life doesn't, just pause like Inception or something where we can be in different realms and think, nah, this is real. This is real life. And again, like seeing you smile, seeing folks smile. I think that is a crucial. I think that's a crucial life nugget in a gem, right, to existence. Like, no matter how hard something is, or difficult, or trauma, pain, it doesn't matter. If you can smile, if you can enjoy, what, like, dang, I gotta do this test in 7 minutes, and I don't even know what the test is about. I don't even know what class it is. Yeah, that was me before. So, I was like, how did I get myself in these situations? You know what? I guess I'm gonna fail this test. And I'm not saying don't prepare, but if you find yourself, in these real situations, like, right, because that's what it is, being as okay as possible with your flawed, or with your, I am not this statue of a person. Like, I'm some things might have to fall, some things might have to, roll roll under the bed. I'll get it later. It's not supposed to be perfect, because if that was the case, life wouldn't be the way that we know it, right? So that means we always have choices. And I want my choices to work in my favor, right? Like, and I would encourage that for anyone I talk to. Like, I believe our choices should work in our favor, and how we operate, and how we think, and how we do things.
Yeah, that's a lot of help, you said.
For sure, man. You're doing a great job. I just met you all of today, and I think you're doing a great job. You look like you're taking care of yourself, and it's not about, me seeing you, but I think that you hearing that from me, with two brothers from, different parts of the state right now. Hey, brother, I think you're doing a great job. I don't have to know the ins and outs. I don't have to know any details. I'm telling you right now, man, you're doing a great job. And you make sure you tell yourself that, and that too. You just in active mode all the time. So it's hard to see that sometimes.
Good.
Yeah. I love what you said. I'm almost 60 years old. So here I am. And when I was at GRCC, I was a horrible student. Oh boy, just horrible. And then I went to Michigan State and failed a lot of classes. And I think if I could go back to my younger self, the main thing I would do is tell myself to just be good to myself. It's okay. Life is long, and sometimes the trick is not white knuckling forward, it's letting go of things that don't fit. Which, I think we're all raised, you got to be perfect, and you got to know what you want. What do you want to be? What do you want to do? And what are you going to shoot for? And
yeah,
you don't know. You're not supposed to know, really. If you know, then you're probably making your mind up too soon. It's this big, bizarre process that's messy. So I totally agree. Looking back, everything I did ended up being good for whatever, even the failures. And I think if you're not failing, you're not trying enough things. You gotta just give it a go. And if it doesn't work, then that's good information too. Life is really long. You figure it out as you go. Maybe there's a few people who get it right away. That wasn't me.
Same. Same.
And I couldn't. Now I'm so happy. I found by trial and error, I have found the right fit. But yeah. So maybe, I don't know. Do you have any ideas for how do you know when to just keep pushing and when to say this isn't a good fit for me? That's a hard thing for me anyway.
Yeah, no, definitely. No. And thank you for sharing that too. And I think that that could materialize in a number of ways. One thing I would say is if the circumstances or how things are happening, for you, or for one, if you're not whole, or if it's damaging in some ways, I think that that's uh, a time or an opportunity to, let's pause on where we are, and let's assess, like what's the path forward, from where we are, so I appreciate you sharing, like you said, in your time at state, or you said Michigan State, right? Or yeah. Just taking classes and not doing well with them, and then, but still moving forward, you know, that was an adjustment. That was an adjustment. And so, yeah, if one is, older, or, pursuing something, again, or continuing, whatever the case might be, I think that as long as you are prepared, to be surprised in some ways, and I think that, like you said, you don't know, you don't have all the answers, and that's a part of life. I would say this, like I said before, smiling really makes me feel like I'm making the world better, one person at a time. Like, so literally, we don't know each other outside of this Zoom relationship, this Zoom conversation, but the fact that our human connectivity is so present, that makes it worthwhile to me. So I would say too, just connecting, staying connected with those resources, people, activities, that promote, you to be able to move forward in with a right mental mindset. Because yeah, if it's damaging you, if it's not benefiting you, then those are things that you have to make a decision on trimming the fat, or pausing and making sure that you're getting yourself back into a productive mode of thinking, so that you can do what you've set out to do. That's how that's at least how I would see it.
Definitely. I think that that's a really good point. To like you said, like deciding whether or not to continue certain things, or if they're damaging to you. I had a question for you and I lost my train of thought, so I'm trying to regain it. It keeps happening. But for students that are kind of like, I feel like certain scenarios that we stay in things that we don't feel happy doing, because we think that they'll get us to where we want to be. For students that kind of feel like, even if they're not happy in what they're doing, you know, should they, how are your feelings on that? Like if it's not making you feel fulfilled or happy, maybe it's not damaging, but if you're not happy in doing it, what are your thoughts on whether they should stay or kind of maybe find another way?
Yeah. So I definitely, try to make sure that I understand where they are. Is it a matter of if the student feels like they're giving up, or like you said, like if this is just something that I don't want to do, so we really take some time to identify where they are, so let's just say in a scenario, yeah, this really isn't what makes me happy. I found out why, what's the why behind that. And a lot of times I've found that it's, been kind of a path or a process of, since I was younger, or like how for as long as I can remember, I've been told, or I would do this, like my family influence is a very strong situation, and whatever the case might be. Or, I just set this goal and I just really want to see it through. It could be, it could be that scenario as well. But I think the proper education on independent thinking, is where I, present, is where I present that in a different avenue, or I introduce that perspective. Because a lot of times, like I think Michelle was saying, is that, we're in these environments, or this, at least this is what I've taken from it. Like, we're in a lot of social environments where things are expected to just be one particular way. And so, of course, anything that that seems to be like outside of the mental perimeter is uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable, and we don't like it. We challenge it, we resist, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think it's important to to have those talks with if you have an advisor, or with someone who is in a capacity to really be a thought partner. What does X scenario looks like? If this isn't working out for you, what is it that you're thinking that you want to do, right? So in exploring, and I always tell students too, which they found very helpful, and I think this is very good too for advisors to do, is to make sure that students aren't forced to make a decision right now. I think that that's probably one of the most gripping challenges that students face, like declaring a major. A lot of students feel like, I have to declare my major by sophomore year, end of semester sophomore year. And I'm like, that is a big myth. Okay. It's a big fat myth. You don't have to, a lot of times we don't have to make decisions right then and there. And I think that that's a pressure too, that's really steering students in like a dead end type deal, or ditching a road, so taking the time to think about, different scenarios. And if you find yourself, yeah, I really would like to do this, but, and then we start building a path to just talking about it. And then, what, here's some tools, here's some resources, some tips on what this could look like, even though you might stay on this path to finish it, right? Because a lot of times, if you are already near graduation, or if you're close to graduation, what, I think it would be beneficial to, not even beneficial, but yeah, looking at time. Yeah, here's the scenario here, and then here's the scenario there. Really, make a clear pathway of what the situation might be for the student. Because yeah, you don't want to do a hard reset and change life. Like, that's not going to work. It's okay to finish this goal that's been set, but then hereafter you have X amount of opportunities to create your own path, or to continue on a path and building upon where you are. All right. So it doesn't have to be this crazy, hocus pocus type deal. Build. You're a human being who evolves, and your interest grows, your, decisions change, thoughts. That's okay. That's a part of life, So I put it in that perspective, and that's really been, a helpful conversation, a helpful type of conversation that I've had with students.
Yeah, I've been speaking with a lot of people this semester, and I found that a lot of people view being uncomfortable as a bad thing in all situations, even if it's just uncomfortable conversations about important topics. So it was kind of thinking about, the thought of being uncomfortable in a certain situation or discussing certain things. To you, how is being uncomfortable always bad, or, I mean, it's in context, but,
Yeah. Now, I would say, I guess I would challenge, a soft challenge, softly challenge what is uncomfortable, and a lot of times it's just literally different, but it's described as uncomfortable. The experience is attached to, or described, the feeling is described, as the experience. If I hope I'm saying that right. And again, discovering the why. Why are you uncomfortable? Why is there discomfort? And then it's because, if I were to do this and then that, we think, this whole Charlotte's Web of a life, that isn't real, but just the thought alone can deter, you know. And so like I do a lot of work with students, you know, just like, you know, mental game is just crazy important. Like what we hear from people and in our environments, like all those things are truly impactful on like how we move, how we make moves in life, you know. So yeah, uncomfortable. Yeah, discover why. Why are we uncomfortable? You know, and I'm more than patient. I'm happy to, you know, sit and just hear everything, right? Because I feel like if I'm going to be in your corner, if I'm going to be somebody who says I care, da da da, okay, please allow me to, you know, let me prove you wrong if I'm not a good advisor of anything, you know. I discover why. And then after we've discovered why, you know, again, we never have to make any permanent decisions right there on the spot. We create scenarios, right? You know, and not overwhelming too. So like, oh, here's these 15 different things. Go home, do your homework, you know. Here's about 2 or 3, you know, different options and perspectives, right? And then, you know, we can follow up. So the path is, or the conversation is truly holistic. It's not again a one size fit all. It's not a, you know, this is, you know, we have to make a decision right now. It's let's build, let's build um these pathways, right? You know, and let's make sure that we're not just acting out of feeling, you know, but, you know, shifting our perspective or considering, you know, another perspective to neutralize, you know, this discomfort. And then we often see is that, you know what, I'm okay with thinking, you know, beyond, you know, this one idea that I've been really resting on for however long, or I've been pursuing for however long. And yeah, like I'm not as stressed, or I'm not as uncomfortable expanding my perspective.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, you know, I think like you said, in context is definitely important.
Yeah. And with how everything's like so virtual now, um I I think that like everybody sees everyone is accessible at all hours of the day, all times. Um how, you know, this is a topic that I know Sheila really stresses in her class is boundaries. For someone who's kind of used to like not setting boundaries or not knowing really how to set those because so many people have been accessible for so long, how do you feel that it would be a good start for someone to kind of create boundaries in their professional and academic life?
So is this for a student or a
Yeah,
professional?
for a student, kind of like a lot of student leaders, they're contacted from their members and for, you know, all the organizational stuff.
Mhm.
You know, for someone in say that scenario, how would they go about, you know, being able to not get pulled away from their studies at all hours because people are accessible, you know?
Yeah, definitely. That's a good point. Um, my response to that is I like to expand like the timeline, you know. So, all right, this is where we are right now, given, you know, you've been operating, you know, the whole semester in this way. Of course, I'll ask, how's that working out for you? And it's like, yeah, it's a bit much, it's stressful, da da da. And then I'll say, so when does it stop? You know, and so we, you know, I create like that. I ask a question a certain way to, you know, kind of halt, you know, like, oh, you know what, yeah, like I have been operating, you know, as like this, you know, back and forth. Every, you know, everything is just on, you know, on mode. So I would say, again, setting those realistic, you know, expectations for yourself. You know, breaking away, not allowing false guilt. You know, that's a real big one that, you know, many of us are challenged with. You know, it's like, oh man, like I have to do this, I have to do that. It's like, do you really? You know, and I think that it's important, you know, like for advisors, you know, probably a number of things, you know, for us in advising is just, you know, you really don't want to miss the mark with students because they don't come back. You know, if you talk to I know from many stories I've been told, thankfully students that I haven't experienced that directly, was like, yo, AT just sucked. He just I came to AT and he just kind of crapped on me. Nah. I think it's really important to have a very mindful approach, to what students bring to you. So in this scenario, I'll be very intentional about what you're saying. Yeah. So creating, like a self-care strategies. That's really what it is. Like, are you telling me that you're going to be the professional who, okay, you now are, you got a relationship, you're in a fruitful career, and then everything is just gonna, you spend this many hours doing everything else. And that's the kind of professional CEO, businessman, businesswoman that you are planning to be. So I asked that question, and then it's like, well, I want to do this, that, and that. And so, right, so that perspective, like, I think that's a really big one again. And then we start to shift things, accordingly. So yeah, I'm taking those necessary, small, realistic steps. You know what? I'm going to spend, 20 minutes, I'm going to watch an episode of a show that I like. If it's starting there, whatever the case might be, I like to read, but da da da. You know what? Let's make that a priority. We set a realistic timeline. I don't put things right on the spot, but all right, by Thursday, so 2-3 days from now, this is when we'll start this, so they can kind of work toward it, and look forward to it. I think that's a important thing too. It's like, oh man, you know what? I set this goal, just like everything else, for everybody else. Now you have to be the main person that you are taking care of and that you are approaching, with that same level of excitement and anticipation.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Did anybody else have any more questions for Andarius? Natalie, did you have any questions?
Basically, he covered everything that I wanted to know. So there was something in the middle that I wanted to ask, but basically, like the questions that you guys ask, is basically just cover what I wanted to know, like about isolation, how to cope with it. I guess the only thing that I can ask to go further with the isolation issue is what would be your recommendation, like for a student who's saying, okay, I'm tired of this isolation, of doing work online. I'm just gonna give up and just stop doing this. What would you say to that student who wants to give up and just stop doing online work?
Okay. Is this a permanent? Just for clarity, is this case where you gonna give up like completely, like stop the? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I would say is I mean, if this is something that you really want to do, are you going to be okay, or do you think that you'll be okay with jumping ship, with the progress that you've made? I would ask that question, and really make sure that, it's not an impulsive thing, because, we want to be okay with our decisions. We want to be, what, I made this decision and I have a peace about it, so I'm real big on having peace with, any kind of any major decision, especially. But yeah, do you think that you will have your peace, intact with this decision? And if it's not, then okay, how do we strategically adjust, the things around us, that would allow us to proceed, toward this goal and finish the semester, strong. So, but if it is something where, what, I think that this is the best decision for me, my mental health, my family, whatever the case might be, what, I really do think that this is the case, and I just wanted to talk with somebody, right? An advisor, somebody who is in like I said, this role, or whomever, and just hear that it's okay, right? And I think, and I'm never, and I don't think anybody should be in a position where, what, that's not a good decision for you, like that doesn't work. So yeah, I would just ask, though I would approach it in that way, you know. So one, if it is, are you okay with, you know, the progress that you've made? Because you have made progress. Are you okay with, you know what, I'm gonna leave it where it is and then go a different route? Or, and if you're not, you know what, let's strategically adjust the things so that we can finish accordingly.
Thank you. That was great.
You're welcome.
And are there any other questions? Is there anything else you'd like to share, Andarius, kind of from your perspective that would help during finals week for people?
Yeah, definitely. You know, I say great job, you know, great job to everybody. I know it may not look like it with, you know, with our, I like to put it this way, diverse grades. If for those who have diverse, you know, markings on their, you know, progress reports during the class, you know, regardless of what it looks like or what you even feel like, you know, you're doing a good job because you have, you know, like I just said, you have made it this far, you know, and you've made it this far by doing your due diligence to the goals that you set, to the goal that you set, to pursuing, you know, completion of this program, right, of your goal. And I think that that's always worthy of acknowledgement, truly. And so make sure that, you know, right now, and Darius, you know, Kat from, you know, I'm rooting for you. You know, that's important. Number one, you are doing a great job. Number two, I say that it's, you know, it has to be a priority that you break away from your studies in order to be as productive as you can, you know, as you pursue, you know, these finals. I think we've talked about it already, you know, well enough, where sitting in front of a computer, that's already the normal now, a new normal, sitting in front of these screens for, as Sarah said, 10 hours. Bless your heart. I don't know how she does it or how she did it, but I'm not going to do that.
It's not recommended.
Definitely wouldn't recommend it either. You know, but, you know, I think that it's important, you know, to break away, you know, accordingly and doing those things, even if it's a, you know, 5-minute stretch, you know. And I think that when I put little recommendations out there, it's really hard for students to not, you know, I can do a push up, right? Like, even if I'm not asking if somebody really just do something crazy, extend your arms out, just do small rotations, do that for 4 seconds, right? It was like, I can do that. And so we build from there. Whatever that looks like for you, please make sure your health, your physical, mental, spiritual health, you know, is a priority. It has to be. Last thing, if you're not enjoying it, you know, if you're not enjoying being where you are, who you are, the ups, the downs, the ins and outs, I would strongly encourage making necessary steps and changes and adjustments to, making that a priority as well. You're the only you that this world will ever know. All the people who have come before us and those who might, you know, who will come after us. And Andarius Taylor is the only one. You know, I'm the only me. You're the only you, Miss Sarah Kinney. All right, Miss Sheila, Miss Sherry, like we, Miss Natalie, we are the only us. So we have to, just like we take care of everybody else, you know, so diligently, we have to do that to ourselves. And I think that we all can agree on that, you know. So, and that's a process too. We have a relationship with ourselves too. Not just the people in our family, but we are in a relationship with ourselves. And oftentimes we don't look at it like that, you know. So it's just go, do for others and for other people. Nah, you know what? I'm gonna take this time for me, and I'm not gonna go feel bad about it. That's gotta be a priority as well. So yeah, rock out in these exams is what I'll tell you. You're gonna do just fine. You know, don't wait till last minute. If you have, all right, just make a mental note to not stress, even though, because you know is we can always work toward, you know, recovering, you know, if need be, but utilize the resources because they're there for you.